As the death toll in the New Zealand mosque massacre climbs to 50, authorities are racing to identify victims so their families can bury them in accordance with Muslim tradition. New Zealand's Prime Minister called a cabinet meeting tomorrow and vowed the government will confront gun control.
I can tell you one thing right now. Our gun laws will change. There have been attempts to change our laws in 2005, 2012, and after an inquiry in 2017. Now is the time for change.
Heather du Plessis-Allen is with me now. She's a columnist for the New Zealand Herald. Good to see you, Heather. So what is the consensus of most people? Do they agree with the Prime Minister that gun laws must change?
Look, honestly, it's probably a little early for us to know exactly where the country sits on this. The most prolific online activity is coming from those who are interested in keeping guns in the hands of gun users. So there's a lot of traffic from essentially our gun lobby. It's not a cohesive group, but the cobbling together of them. There's a lot of traffic coming from them, and they are very, very strongly opposed to this. But I think that it will be very hard to avoid doing something with the gun laws, given the strength of feeling in the country right now about what's happened.
So you wrote an op-ed about gun control in New Zealand in the Herald, calling for two major changes: banning semi-automatics and a national registry to start tracking who owns guns. And you write that the reason that hasn't happened yet is money. And I'm quoting from the paper right now. A register would cost about $30 million. Apparently that's too expensive. But how much would you pay to undo Friday's attack? Is that what the Prime Minister will be grappling with as she meets with other leaders?
Yeah, it is a combination of two things. It is the money. It is extremely expensive. I mean, $30 million to set up a register is not a lot of money, really, but it is an excuse that's been used. Buying back, in order to ban your assault rifles, you need to, you need to be able to buy them back, and that will cost millions and millions and millions of dollars. We're talking hundreds of millions of dollars likely if we look at the Australian example where they did it something slightly more than 20 years ago. That's the one consideration. The other consideration is the fact that this gun lobby, once they get going, they are extremely passionate about it. And look, a lot of New Zealanders use guns. A lot of New Zealanders feel that they should have access to these weapons. And so they will be able to mobilize a lot of people. And the consideration that will be really playing on this government's mind is how many votes can we afford to lose when we're trying to do this?
So in the U.S., there's the Second Amendment. Are there similar protections in New Zealand for gun ownership?
No, not at all. I mean, we look at your situation and we think it's bizarre that it's in your constitution. For us, it is more the fact that we are keen hunters. It's part of our upbringing that we spend a lot of time in the outdoors, and there is a sort of understanding that you'd have to say most New Zealanders have friends or family who use guns. They are part of our everyday lives in some capacity, and so I think that would be more where our association with guns comes from, rather than some sort of legal protection.
And in this country, President Trump has come under some scrutiny, criticism in the U.S. and elsewhere for not saying more specifically in support of the Muslim community there, the Muslim victims. And he has not denounced with the rise, denounced the rise of white nationalism, instead saying it doesn't appear as though there has been a rise. What has been the sentiment about the president's remarks there?
Look, I think it's fair to say that Donald Trump is not very popular in New Zealand. And so there will be a lot of feeling that Donald Trump is not helping the situation with regards to the sentiment towards Muslims around the world. I think that would be about the extent of it.
All right, Heather du Plessis-Allen, thank you so much. We have so much more straight ahead in the newsroom right after this.